Sain Sutherland is nowadays a deputy principal in curriculum business development at North Hertfordshire College. In the 70s, she developed and was involved in interesting experiences in the touristic sector. In the 90s, Sain developed the first American associate degrees in partnership with US universities, enabling students to gain dual qualifications. And most recently, Sain has begun to develop a new curriculum paradigm with entrepreneurship at its strategic core. She leads a strong team of assistant principals within an organization with entrepreneurial values as a core value of the whole organization. And the second presenter is David Pitcher. He is assistant principal of the Academy of Creative and Cultural Industries at North Hertfordshire College also. In 2010, David led a cross-organization group of teaching and support staff in the development of research projects on the changing phase of teaching in the 21st century. But I would like to highlight that David's key interest is in how a college can unlearn its traditional models of delivery, learning, and expectations of students. This process of change focuses people in our organizations being able to imagine how learning can be reformulated. And I think that could be a good question in our seminar. Both are presenting a demo with the title is New Learning Team, Time for Creativity and Collaboration in Teacher Education. So the floor is yours, Sain and David.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Hello? Yes, that's working. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Buenos dias, bon dia. I'm delighted to be here in Barcelona. I have visited Barcelona many, many times. I lived here for 6 months in the late 60s, early 70s, in a very different regime to now. I've worked for a Spanish company for 10, 12 years, now part of the big giant TUI. We're about doing something very differently at North Herts College. Entrepreneurship for FE is something that we believe passionately in. A group of people have written a book recently, which was published in May. I have a few copies here later for people to look at, which has looked at entrepreneurship in the public sector worldwide. And we're trying to learn lessons from this work that was undertaken. For those of you who are unaware, the further education sector is the middle sandwich for us. When students leave state school and before they go to university, many will go to a further education college to do academic and vocational learning. There are something like 140 million pounds worth of business across the 4 colleges that we work in in partnership. There are over 3 million students in the further education sector in the United Kingdom, and there are about 400,000 16 to 18-year-olds in our sector. So, to move forward, you will remember this article back in 2008, which said we need to develop and stimulate the mindsets of young people. That is the thread of what we're trying to do all the way through. Just like everybody else, we've got large numbers of unemployed young people. We're not about an entrepreneurial initiative, a startup, this venture, that venture. We're about using this to develop students' capabilities in a very different way for the future. We are stopping thinking about qualifications is king. For us, the destination of the student, their next steps, is the most important fact. So we want them to concentrate on what they need to do to get to university, what they need to do to get to be a top chef, what they need to do to get to be the best business manager. A different approach. Yes, qualifications underpin much of what we do, but they are not the most important fact, as brought out by the 2 previous speakers. We believe Ken Robinson's view, which is exactly the same as Steve has said to us this morning, In the UK, very much we're working to a batch control system set in the Industrial Revolution, absolutely no longer fit for purpose. And in reality, in my sector, we're sort of large teenage creches. As long as they're in the classroom doing good things, the success is good, they're not making too much noise, they've got a lesson plan, they've got a scheme of work. Up until a few years ago, we were all quite relaxed about that. That won't work in the future. Students are waking up to the fact that a qualification and just sitting there getting PowerPoint after PowerPoint does not develop their skills and create a better future. So we've looked, I've been out myself personally out to Babson, which is one of the leading universities in entrepreneurship education, and we've looked at their tools and their systems and approaches. We've looked at a large number of community colleges in the States, how they're delivering entrepreneurship, and they're very much delivering it as a course. You come on the enterprise course or the entrepreneurship course. We're trying to do that with all courses, not just from a course perspective. Few facts about the United Kingdom that are very similar to the rest of Europe. 1 in 5 young people are unemployed. We've got nearly 2 million, 2.5 million people unemployed. 55% of our graduates can't get jobs. They're backfilling in the much lower level skilled jobs. Therefore, our young people coming out at 16, 17, 18 can't get the lower level skilled jobs because they're being filled by graduates. We've had a very recent report by Wolf, Professor Alison Wolf, who established that there were over 400 young people who'd been doing courses in schools that actually led nowhere. They didn't give them the skills or the expertise to move on to the next step. What is the vision then? We want better equipped students, more confident students, curious, ambitious students. What's an entrepreneurial college? Well, an entrepreneurial college is one that develops and allows staff and students to do the unthinkable, to think about doing things differently, to take students off timetable. I would very much like to knock down many of the walls of our classrooms. I'd like much bigger learning spaces for this to happen in. We're on the start of a journey. David is going to talk about the practicalities of how we're doing this. We've got 21 groups in the new model, and they do not have a standard timetable that you would expect today. We've introduced new roles in learning mentors and learning coaches, and we encourage them to develop businesses. We've got things called student crew, big student takeover, all sorts of activities that get them out into the real world, not just work experience. David.
Thank you very much, everyone. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm very pleased to have Signy as my Spanish translator for the visit, because I think I probably know one word less than Steve in Spanish, so my apologies. So we see ourselves as an action-based organisation, and the challenge for us was how we could move from our traditional, what Ken Robinson would describe as an industrial model of batch processing, which we've discussed this morning, working towards a facilitation of learning. I've done quite a lot of work with the primary sector in our country, and I was interested to hear at the start that there are some primary sector people with us today. And the teachers in that environment understand facilitation much better than we do traditionally in FE. We have very high success rates. Students achieve qualifications at high level in our organisation, but when they finish their programmes, quite often they don't demonstrate skills that employers attach to get a job to move forward. We've tried to think about how we can expand our team working and collaboration. This is not just our teaching workforce. Roughly half the people in the college are in service areas. So we've engaged our business environment, the finance environment, the estates environment in some of the student projects, using the skill sets of the people within the organisation to become a much broader course team. we talk about blended learning. We are an IT-rich organisation. We spend a huge amount of money in our college on IT infrastructures, and we move very quickly, and we buy new bits of kit for people to use. And we train our teachers to use the kit. The difficulty we've always seemed to have is the conceptualisation of what the learning content could be like in that model, and it relates back to some of the content management that Steve was talking at the end of his presentation, those links. Part of that is embedded in our culture, and we've come to the realisation that what we need to do is to change the culture of the language and our traditional model, which is we see as a compliance model of timetables, classrooms, students are in at 9 in the morning, sessions through the day, and they go home. Everybody knows where they are. It's great for managers because you know where the teachers are, you know where the students are, and as Signe says, if they've got a scheme and a lesson plan, they can move ahead. And we were comfortable with that in our old world. Signe's alluded to the new job roles, so I've got a little bit more detail on those in further slides. So our tutors, the key role for our tutors is to become facilitators of learning and not to do the didactic delivery inside a classroom. We spent a lot of time on thinking about how we could support what we saw as an expanded learning environment for students, because teachers couldn't be devolved across small groups of students on and off campus, for example. So part of the process there was to engage learning mentors and learning coaches. A learning mentor will be the person who's working with the one-to-one tutorial and keeping the IT tracking for an electronic ILP for the students up to date. Learning coaches will aid the facilitation of students working outside what we would think as a traditional classroom environment. We got our mentors and coaches from industry. They were not teacher-educated people. They, by and large, young graduates with specialist areas that might attach to our curriculum specialisms, but they were not teachers. They joined us in July this year, and they went into an extensive training program for 4 weeks. Within that program, we went through an intensive teacher training program, which normally takes us 10 weeks to deliver, and engaged the mentors and coaches in all of the college systems and processes, and they went through their diversity training and their safeguarding training and those compliance areas that we need all the teachers to have. These are some of the examples of the learning that they were in their 4-week program. What it meant was that they were ready to go into the classroom and work with their teams at the beginning of September and hit the ground running. That's quite a change for us. Normally teachers get employed and go into the classroom and then develop through their continuous professional programs on the job, as it were. Okay. Quite a significant change for our teachers. So what we tried to do last year, in July last year, we had a whole college event for teachers which ran for a week of professional development. And we developed online modules and collaboration through various e-processes for teachers to become learners in the model, so that we felt that it would be the best way for people to understand what they were going to be doing when they work with students in what we call our new model of delivery. Okay, so here's where we were. The Royal Opera House in Britain, a worldwide, very well-known organisation, came to me last November with a fantastic opportunity for my students in my creative sector to engage in projects, work placement, working with professionals, and entering competitions. This ranged from stage, backstage, to media and interactive media and marketing processes. At that time, the tutors leading the programs felt completely unable to engage. They planned their year, they had the system in place, they had a scheme of work, they had a timetable, and the students knew what they were doing, and they felt they couldn't corrupt that process. This year, because we've changed the terminology and the actions around our planning, we've been able to engage with this project for March next year much more effectively, with a 10-fold increase in engagement for students and queues of people wanting to go. And it's because we've changed how we describe the planning cycle for our year. This slide illustrates some of the processes from the developmental process the organisation has been in. Essentially, we have 2 course projects pilots last November. We chose 2 quite challenging programmes in the college. one which was not going very well, and another large group of students who were, some of whom were quite disengaged with their programs. And the pilot there started with, the action will be no timetable, no classroom. We delivered some additional IT resources for the students to be able to work, and they managed their own programs. And that started last November as a 6-week project. We started this year with 21 courses running across the college, and what we've tried to do is get a course project running in every curriculum area. So it's on the seeding model that Steve talked about, and so that the best practice and the early adopters can lead the process to the rest of their teams. The whole college working together with its internal cross systems and external agencies is quite important to us, and this describes some of the elements that we're going to be attaching to in terms of the course environment. So these are the areas that might collaborate in learning for students. What we've done is describe the planning for the year as a calendar, which we'll come to in a moment. So we have external events like the Royal Opera House or World Skills that we might attach to, and those things become the drivers for planning for teachers for delivery. The most important one for me is the one on the right-hand side, which is student-led activities, which is where we want to get to a stage where the opportunities that are given through a calendar are taken up by students, and students then determine what they want to do, and the role of the tutor will be to map back to our traditional qualification models. We're thinking about destinations, of course, rather than qualifications in everything we do now. So where we've ended up is with, rather than a qualification, units, schemes, lesson plans, timetables and classrooms, we've gone with the new projects to an overarching calendar which contains communication inside the college and externally with our partners and with business and with opportunities with other organisations, to select events which then the tutors map to their curriculum. That then in effect gives a kind of timetable, but there's a breakdown in terms of the culture there, in terms of where people will work. It's not necessarily classroom based as a process. The personalisation for the students, we had great difficulty historically in getting our students to work cross-level. So a level 1 programme would be for level 1 students, a level 2, level 2, level 3, level 3. And what we now have is an opportunity through an events-based calendar for students to access their learning at the level they're at, and then personalise that with their mentors into their ILPs. The Green Week stripe is an interesting one. Our college sustained cuts in budgets last year in the region of 15%. As a consequence of that, we expanded the delivery time for students. So we've gone from a 32-week year to a 35-week year, and what we've done is been able to introduce quite large gaps in the curriculum traditional timetable model to enable students, coaches and other organisations to work with us, with the students, in old language, off timetable. But we're giving space for people to entertain projects and activities that are driven by student groups. And we're working very much with students within classes in small groups. So they rotate team leadership, they develop business plans, they can now pitch business plans to our enterprise centre and gain what we used to get as tutors and leaders of courses, what's called enrichment money. So we had an idea for students. We go and bid for some money centrally, get the money and take the students out. Our students can now do that for themselves. So this is really the foundation for the year for us in terms of a calendar of events. We're on a journey, we're not there yet, and our 21 courses will give us a lot of feedback during the year. We're working with external consultants who give us contextualised reports on a termly basis, really, an ongoing basis to inform us as to where we're going, to give us feedback. We've got this mantra of the expert student. The key things for our expert student are the key qualities that our employers tell us our students don't have when they join the workforce. So an employer would say to me, great student, got the qualification, now I've got them in my workplace, I have to retrain them. And it's about customer service, it's about risk taking, it's about working with teams, leading others, being able to determine the direction and to work to goals which they direct themselves. So this is a list that we got to in terms of where we thought a student might be. Very interesting, in the new model, we thought about what the teacher would be looking like in the new model, and it is virtually the same as this. So where Steve earlier was talking about teachers learning from their students, we feel that's a very powerful tool for us, and the skill set for our teachers in our new model is very, very close to the skill set of our expert students. So before I hand back to Signe, we do have tutors and teachers engaging in this process, and I've got a short 1-minute video here of one of our tutors who's engaged in working with her students.
Hi, my name's Rachel Matthews and I'm the course team leader for the BTEC Level 2 Diploma in Art and Design at North Herts College. And my course has been one of the courses that's been chosen to go forward in the new model. For me, the new model is about being more open and transparent in the way that I teach with the students. It's about being more vocational in the way that I deliver the course. And more importantly, it's about being more responsive to the students' needs as individuals on the course. It also allows me to give the students the opportunity to become expert students and take on jobs as and when they come into the college, and to support them to do that. So it's very much about being more responsive to the student and really sort of supporting what they want to do in the future with regards to their future ambitions and dreams, which we talked about on the first day of the course. So basically what they do after college is at the forefront of this curriculum. It's not just about what they do in college. So for me, it's about a curriculum that's very much more student-centred. The student is at the heart of this curriculum, and hopefully that will make my year very exciting, but also prepare the students for employment when they leave, and give them the confidence to be more entrepreneurial and to be the kind of student that we want coming out of North Hertfordshire College.
Thank you very much, everybody. That's the end of our presentation. I have another video, but I'm not going to play that now. I'll play that as you're changing over. It just backs up what we've said. It's repetition.
Thank you very much.